Welcome, creatives, to another episode of the Almost Creative Podcast. It's Christian Diaz, and today we're sitting with Kayla Kalisz. Kayla, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great so far. Thank you very much for having me.
Cool. You and I go a little bit back, and I know you, but could you tell us, the audience, who you are and what is it that you do?
Absolutely. My name is Kayla Kalisz. I'm a third generation entertainer. My mother and grandmother were both dancers and acrobats, and I'm the lucky one who has decided to kind of switch things up and take a circus and specialty arts route. I work in corporate events, private events, specialty parties, and just pop-up shows and tours throughout the US. I also work as an NBA halftime show performer, so that's really fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Which NBA team are you usually performing for?
I work for a variety of NBA teams. In the past, I've worked with the Pacers, the New Orleans Pelicans, I believe, Pelicans, the Oklahoma City Thunder, as
Yeah.
well as I'm pretty sure I said the Pacers, the Nuggets, and
Mm.
Lakers.
What exactly is like specialty performance?
So, specialty entertainment is essentially taking something that ordinary people wouldn't typically associate with or book and creating this unique vision for, say, for instance, an event. I do specialty arts, which requires a different form of training and skill set and curriculum. So, for instance, I have a dance background, but I do hoverboard hand balancing. Hoverboard is a unique specialty feature in of itself. Hand balancing as well, because people can't traditionally do a handstand. So what we're doing is taking unique forms and skill sets of arts and combining them into specialty elements.
Okay. So does it just mean like kind of more related to circus acts sort of thing?
It can relate to circus acts, but I mean, especially entertainment as a whole really spans. We can go into flow arts, you can go into living statues, clowning, which is essentially still circus,
Clowning.
tumbling, acrobatics, rollabola. It goes closely related to circus, but it
Got
can
it.
also branch out a little bit too.
Where exactly is the industry at where they need these sort of gigs?
Anywhere there's a company, anybody who might have some sort of celebratory event. People do it for weddings. We do special entertainment and aerial for, serving at weddings. We might even do like a special dance for brides. Or in another sense, say for instance, we have big name client over here. We're not going to name names, of course, but they want to do a holiday party and they want to have something that really draws the attention of all their guests that's a little different than a traditional like server just having some drinks or something. So we bring in whatever they want to kind of confirm to their vision, whether that be a unique roaming character that kind of interacts with guests throughout, or a spectacle piece that takes like 5 minutes away before they're presenting an award, where you can at least look at this and be like, wow, that's really neat. And it really just depends on the client and kind of what they want. But we can do them again for birthday parties, weddings, special events, anything in between. Wherever you want attention to be drawn, that's where we'll be.
And by the way, for context, we'll be putting stuff up on the screen about what she's talking about. It's a little bit hard to, for at least for me, to explain. So it's better just for you to see. How exactly did you get into specialty entertainment?
Ironically, I think one of my first steps into specialty entertainment was when I was connecting as a dancer with a couple of my local friends in the community, and I found that a few people were performing for the Lead Discovery Children's Museum Gala, which is a special event and specialty dinner that was trying to raise money for the museum. And they brought me along to do what we called Bubble Sphere during the silent auction. So they put me in a giant plastic bubble that was filled up with air, and I would be doing like acrobatics in the bubble as gala attendees were kind of going around and exploring the silent auction. And that was like my first step into things. When I started training into aerial arts, for instance, I met with a lot of entertainers who have been doing just aerial and circus arts and everything as a whole. And my original coach actually started her own entertainment company, which kind of opened the doors into that window and world for me.
And what are some of the requirements or standards that you have now that you have to maintain?
Maintaining my acts, maintaining my physique, or just ensuring that I can do the skills that I present.
Okay.
So if I say that I can do quick change, I have to make sure that I'm still trained and practiced up on that. I have to make sure my costume pieces are still up and set. And just like even for aerial, I've got to make sure that I have the strength, awareness, and skill set to present myself in the best manner that I'm also showcasing in my past work.
When I first got familiar with what you do, like the image that kept going into my mind is like the performers and scarers at like Fright Fest of Six Flags. And usually when you send me stuff, you're dressed as these characters who do like weird contortion like things or just scares or like you're hanging down from a balcony. Like it's all a little bit weird, a little bit off kilter maybe. But what is your favorite performance to do?
So the fun thing about entertainment as a whole is whenever I step into a job, we never really have the same job. I might, for instance, have worked the same event 2, 3 years in a row, but each time I come back to that event, they're always changing it up in terms of things. So one year I might have just been a fully like clothed costume character in a unitard that had like swirls all over me and nobody could see my face and I was just like interacting with the people in a weird, creepy way. Meanwhile, like if I went back to that same event, say for instance this year, we were scarecrows. Yeah. So I would say my favorite as a whole is just having something specifically unique and fun where I can kind of tap into a different character and embody that and become that type of thing. Instead of it being just like, oh, I'm still showing and I'm presenting, and it's like, oh, this is just an act. If I have source material to kind of pull from, like, I'll go back to that scarecrow. Like, I can really envision what I want to do with that, play with it, and add my own take to it. So, really character driven focuses.
It just clicked in my head that you were scaring people as a scarecrow. I don't know why I didn't put those two together when you were telling me about it this weekend.
It wasn't even scaring people, actually. It was just drawing attention. Because we weren't necessarily scary. I've had several people tell me I wasn't scary, but it was more so like creating the world that you are trying to envision. Yeah. Like we have a world where it's like life on the Mars, or for instance, like Red Planet, and everyone there has to become that type of character, like an odd alien entity or something, or like at the Halloween festival, because it's all Halloween, you have to put people into a new space. You don't want it to feel as though you're in reality. So you're stepping into an immersive field for that period of time and events.
Yeah, that makes sense. You bring more life to the party, basically.
Yes.
Do you have any methodology for getting into like the mind of your characters?
That's the funny thing, because I've actually learned that a lot of specialty performers have difficulty doing that. And I think I can take it and to tell others about it is to just imagine you have no humility. Not being afraid of doing weird things, kind of going out of your way, finding something to go up against and just interacting with it in a sense that would be different than anybody else would imagine. You almost kind of feel as though you're wearing a mask and you're at a different, like, personal pain with people. You don't have those restrictions. You don't have those uncomfortable levels. You just have to become something else because you're not yourself at that point. Yeah. So I think really just stepping into the mindset that you are that particular character, you can take your own take on it. You don't have to use exact elements. You can take your skills and strengths, and you can take some of your weaknesses and kind of blend it into its own thing.
Was there ever a time that you really had a hard time connecting with the act you were supposed to put on?
Of course, there's always going to be situations in which you might not directly connect with something, and it can certainly be difficult. If you have a friend who also has a similar style or element, you can take tips and ask them for a little bit of advice, or you can just find a way to take a little bit of yourself and blend it without fully stepping onto that side where it's a little more uncomfortable. So kind of toning it down to a level you're comfortable with and then stepping forward with it. There can be a lot of mental blocks and barriers, but as long as you still make it immersive and make it yourself and unique, it also helps when you have like actual props and items and makeup that kind of changes things up, then that really sets you in a place.
Is this just for characters at events, like kind of like we talked about, like the scarecrows at like a festival, or is this more so about acts where you're in the air doing aerial?
With acts, when I'm doing things in the air, a lot of times I am primarily the person and sole individual who's putting together like the choreography. Unless we have a specific like stage show, which comes, of course, far and few in between, but every once in a while, and we have a choreographer that comes in and plays. So when it comes to aerial, I do a lot of atmospheric things. So we're not looking at set like 5-minute acts. We're looking at 10 minutes or 15 minutes in the air where we're creating this beautiful, elegant kind of world and system. Yeah. And I get to kind of play with all of my skills and do things that I'm comfortable with because I know that I can do those things.
What do you mean by you make the choreography?
So in a sense, if I were to have to create a new act for something, yeah, let me restart this one.
Yeah, where do you want to go into that? Because I actually don't know at all anything about how you set up your choreography. Like, how do you do your...
So it works differently because this is all still recording, so this works. As an artist, we have two different fields in which we can step into. You can create your own act specifically, and that is whatever you want to present as your feature act. And that is saying to the client or to whatever guest, this is what I do. This is how I envision myself doing it. If you like it, then this is what you get. When we look at shows, for instance, then we might have one where it's like we have a Gatsby gala, or we have something that's a little more regal and elegant. Yeah. So they ask for a specific theme, a specific character, or even like a particular song. So when you're created as an artist, we all have to have acts. And you don't have any sort of guidance and direction. It more so stems from your strengths and what you feel like you want to put out there. So when I'm putting together an act, I really like to find music that I kind of resonate with, see what works with the prop itself, because you're obviously not going to do something where the prop has no relation to the song you're doing. Unless you make it comedic, of course, which can then kind of tie in, but that's a different type of performer and a different type of show. So what I'm doing is I'm finding something I'm comfortable with, and then I kind of find inspiration in my strengths and skills, or I can say, I really want to feature this particular skill. So I'm going to find a way to transition that into the act itself.
Is this kind of your industry? Does it change a lot based on location?
It can certainly change a lot.
So in Vegas, what would it look like if I came to you as a client and I started asking you to do things? Like, let's say we're putting on a New York New Year's Eve show, and I want you to perform in the evening. We'll have cocktails out, and before the reception, you will be performing on stage an aerial show. What does that look like, and what are the steps to actually get that going?
Absolutely. So the biggest step, especially with aerial, is the fact that we have to have a safe and secure, structurally sound rigging point. So before I even start associating with further confrontations with my client, what I would do is see if they have a rigger, see if we have load dynamics and specs for the actual rigging that they're looking to have, and also find the dynamic weights and load capacity for what we're doing. If I'm doing something like silks, I want to make sure that I have much more structurally, I mean, when you're doing aerial in general, you want fully structurally sound supports. And if that's not capable, then we find a way to add a rig, or we find alternatives where we can connect with the venue or the client, or even a personal rigger that we might know who would come in and vet the space itself. Once all of that's out of the way, which sometimes they already have a point, so we don't have to worry about it that much. But once that's all out of the way, we start going into the theme. If you want to do something in New York, I will send over some costume ideas that might kind of work with what I think will fit in terms of the theme. And if that doesn't work, we outsource costume ideas and kind of pull in whatever might fit. Then we go into if you wanted a particular song, because it might be a special event. If we don't want a particular song, what I might do is I'll send some reference material of past acts that I've done and see if they like anything in terms of that. And then we can kind of pull from there. Or I can ask them for suggestions and then build something specifically for it.
So really, it's like a collaboration between you and the client to get the final act put together.
In a sense, yes. Now, with the clients, I'm not going to go back and forth a million times and send them videos and be like, oh, this is how I'm pursuing the act. They trust me as an artist to develop what they want with the vision that they're trying to create. And my job as an artist is to help the guest in that world be immersed into that feeling. So I have to produce a stellar act. I've got to make sure it holds up to the theme, and I want to make sure that it's something that people are interested in watching.
Did you put a portfolio together to get hired to do this sort of stuff, or what are you doing now to get work?
So as a specialty entertainer, things are definitely different in terms of work. What we do to find and outsource clients is you can work directly with past connections, but unless you really have a broad network of people you can stem with, the best way you're going to connect and find work is going through entertainment companies. So they are acting as your client to the other client, so your client's client. And what they do is they promote your type of act, your materials, or your skill set either on their website or in their talent roster. And then whenever a client comes in and says, hey, I'm looking for a hand balancer or something, they can pull from their list of artists and say, okay, well, now we want a female hand balancer, or we want somebody who has these types of skill sets. And they can pull from the roster and say, okay, well, I've got you, you, and you. Now we have to check availability. So are you available? Are you available? Can we make this happen? And usually from there, it's just point, click, and shoot. Hey, this is what you have to do. Here's where it's going to be. This is the concept. And usually with those types of clients and entertainment companies, they most of the time provide your costuming. If you have a specific act or something like that, like if I do quick change, they're obviously not going to provide my costuming because that is a very act-specific thing where I need to have my own stuff. But for the most part, they set their costumes. If they need some assistance or we're not fitting anything, we might pull and outsource.
So if I'm a client going to an entertainment company and I say, hey, what sort of acts do you have available from your talent?
Yes.
What are some of the acts we could see, and can you describe them to us?
Absolutely. So when you look at a typical entertainment company, you're going to have a huge laundry list of different things. We have specialty acts, which are more nuanced, and that could be aerial arts, where somebody is flying through the sky performing on a set of silks or tissue, as some people would call it. We also have these big metal hoops that we call liras, or just aerial hoop. Hammock is essentially just a piece of fabric that looks like a hammock and it's a U shape. And we can go into the duo acts or specialty props. Some specialty props are unique creations like hearts or even like music notes or cubes. And each one's kind of different and nuanced to its own piece. Then you go into like roaming musicians. So you have like band performers, singers, artists, vocalists, anything like that. You have magicians as well. They can do close-up magic. They can do roaming magic. They can do sit-down type of thing, or even produce their own show depending on the magician. And each company will have a list of those types of performers as well. If you're looking for a show, you can go to that side. We have hand balancers. You've got more especially like hand balancers, contortion performers, circus acts in general. You can go into like Wheel of Death or even teeterboard, trampoline. There's so many options. And also even like children's entertainment, which is another thing that a lot of people don't think about. You can find clowns, balloon twisters, artists like that are more child-friendly as well. So anything you can kind of dream of and imagine, there's going to be an entertainer that can make that come to life.
Funny enough, when I was younger, I actually used to be afraid of clowns.
Really?
Yeah, to a certain degree. Not people don't know this about me.
Was it like
Uh,
big red nose? Like
no. So I think it's because I saw like I think it's the 80s or 90s version of it.
Mhm.
I saw that at a really young age, and I got scared of clowns. And then we had a local clown called El Raton, which means the rat.
Okay.
And he came out to, I think it was my birthday or my brother's birthday. And it was such a good time, and I just kept laughing because he was like doing characters and like, it left a good impression on me. I'll actually say, from a young age, a clown actually made me laugh. So, um, anyways, I feel like you and I can relate in a certain degree because you and I do very similar things on a day-to-day basis with our work, like separately.
Yeah.
But every day is a little bit different. Even when I'm hired for the same thing, it's like this time we're bringing a little bit extra yip to it. Um, so that makes us very gig-based, you and I individually. Is there anything that's more longer term, a little bit more reliable income that you could do in your industry?
Certainly, as an entertainer in general, not even specialty entertainment, we'll take Vegas as an example. You have probably, at least some person has flown to Vegas and realized that there's Cirque shows. Yes. Or you have even just like variety shows in general, probably even a showgirl show. So as a performer, you can take on a contract or residency, as we call it. And usually those types of things last for 6 months to a year. And if you're more nuanced in specialty arts, then you can go for a 6-month contract and then renew it as you go. And with those types of contracts, you essentially realize that you're going to be performing a show 5 to 6 times a week. So you have a set track, set routine, you've connected with all the choreography, you've found a way to go into the ensemble work if you're doing a little bit as a dancer or as a generalist, or if you're a specialty performer as a whole, like a straps act, then you just have your set choreographed routine. You do it 2 to 3 times a night, and that is your main thing.
And this is every day?
Yes.
Wait, so you do the same act 2, 3 times a day, every day for the majority of a week?
Just about every day. Yeah.
For 6 months?
For 6 months to a year, even.
Really?
Yes. And that is actually, there's a problem that a lot of artists have is once you go into a sort of sense of redundancy, it can get boring. I remember talking to one of my artist friends who was so used to the same act, the same routine, that she'd been doing it for months, if not over a year now, that she was doing her act and at the same time thinking about what she was going to cook for dinner that night. So you kind of drift away into another sense because it's just essentially muscle memory at that point. And it gets a little boring. Of course, you're still doing what you have to do as a spectacle, but it loses its luster after a while, and it can get dull and boring depending on who you are.
I'm surprised they don't have you guys working on like an A-B schedule where like, yes, it's almost every day of a week, but it's like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. I'm surprised it doesn't work like that.
Shows do have dark days. Mm-hmm. And it just really depends on the show and what type of contract or like what they're doing in terms of their dark days. Like for instance, you might have, I'm not going to name any shows, but you might have a Vegas show that has Mondays dark and then Wednesdays dark. So then you work Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And dark days means no one on crew is working, or
That means there's no show.
I got it. Okay.
No show in general. We don't have, sometimes they have rotating cast, but dark days mean no show whatsoever, no production, just leave it alone.
Got it.
Kind of like the off days, I guess you could say. There are some shows that run 6 to 7 days a week, and they might have a few switches up in cast, but for the most part, like those artists are just constantly running at it. But for your regular ones, you're looking at about 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. And that can range from 1 to 3 shows a day.
It sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that like for specialty entertainment, the hotspot is Vegas.
It is.
Is it possible to do this in other places of the US?
Absolutely. There are artists around the world doing these types of entertainment. You can go to a resort and see resort shows that are doing 40 to 50-minute shows and then doing roaming entertainment for their like resort people. You have the NBA halftime shows. That happens nationwide, and you can travel the world doing that. There's always going to be a company, even for gig work, where that company wants to do something to celebrate. And as long as there's a celebration, you will find entertainers. You won't find probably as diverse and broad of entertainers, but there's always going to be performers who want to share their art and have a way to connect with it.
In the beginning of the episode, I mentioned you and I go way back. We met in WPPI in 2023, and you were more of a model for us for like a fitness shoot where we were teaching lighting. But you obviously, I've come to learn that you obviously do like specialty entertainment. If someone were in that boat where they were like a model being good in front of the camera, maybe showing product, and they wanted to get into actual acts, what steps would they take to get there?
So I think the biggest thing to say to anybody who wants to step into things is find something that makes yourself unique. Kind of really draw towards your skill sets and say, hey, maybe I've been really good at balancing, for instance, or if you're like a fitness model, maybe you have some like really good strength in your upper body and things like that. So then you could say, if I'm strong, like physically, maybe I could take on aerial arts. If you're a little more flexible, for instance, you might be a model who has like flexibility as a base or have a dance background, then you can kind of play into more acrobatics and kind of really tap into what would be interesting to you. An act is not going to just put itself in your lap. You have to kind of take along what you might be interested in, see if it's worth trying, and then go from there. It's actually really funny. When I was doing a pageant before I started aerial arts, I realized that there were these little brochures and flyers for aerial classes. And I was around 10, 11, or 12 or something, and I'd have no interest in circus arts as a whole at that time.
Yeah.
I'd been a dancer. I knew a bit about flexibility, acrobatics, because that was my whole side of life. But I found that I could tie in my flexibility, my strengths through that, and try aerial. And once I realized that, I started expanding. And I was like, oh, well, I might as well be multidisciplinary. So I started finding things that I really liked. Like, oh, well, because I was an acrobat, I could do handstands. So I started doing more handstands. And I worked with a partner, and I did duo handstands, like partner hand balancing. And then from there, I realized I could do it on different props. So I started adding props. And it's just kind of taking these building blocks and then slowly adding more to it.
Yeah. Is there like a school or classes for this?
Yes. There's actually, now that circus has kind of become a little more mainstream, we have a variety and a myriad of different specialty schools. I mean, out in Montreal, for instance, you have to travel a little bit, but they have a whole circus school. So they will actually train children in traditional schooling while also coinciding their studies with circus arts.
Really?
Yeah.
Like,
so you'll go and you'll do like English class and math and things like that, and then breaking them up instead of like recess, you'll break it into like, oh, I'm going to do straps class that day, or I'll be doing like clowning. So it is a whole school based on circus, but also in school.
Imagine graduating from clown school.
That's the thing, though. People do that.
That's insane.
Yeah. And they even have a few, I think it's like in New England or something, they have a circus school. We also have, I mean, you could probably look up gymnastics gyms, vertical studios, even for the adults, like they have pole fitness studios, which is still another form of fitness and strength and especially arts, pole fitness. And there's always going to be something. I know that a lot of like gymnastics schools, for instance, have started adding aerial classes just to add things into their repertoire and kind of get their gymnasts in a different physicality. So you'll find either a circus school, a little variety arts area, or anything like that. And you can even find like gyms that do handstand classes. You can find theater groups who do clowning. And it's just about reaching out to your arts community and seeing what's out there.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like a big part of this and a big part of what you do is just being good at networking.
Yes, networking is a huge thing because even though it may seem like a big community, circus and especially arts is relatively small. And you can ask somebody, whoever, like I could ask somebody who I've worked with in the past if they know so and so. And 9 times out of 10, they've had a contract with them, they've worked with them, they've had a friend who's worked with them, and it all kind of ties into that. So if you know that you want to go into something else, or you're like not working as much as you want, you can try and connect with your other circus friends on jobs and see where those connections might lead. If you're friendly about it too, you can't just like force it on.
Yeah, no, I see you with what you mean with the community is small, even if though it may not feel like it, because in the photography community, and you guys watching this will understand, a lot of us get our start with real estate and real estate photographers. And the thing is, even though it feels like there's so many people out there, like in Chicagoland specifically, we used to have about 40,000 agents, but everybody knows everybody. So you got to be good at business, and you got to be a person of your word and be kind, because like every agent has worked with or knows another agent. Every videographer bounces around or knows other videographers, and it's like you don't want to do any decisions that will get a reputation that precedes you. That's very bad.
That is extremely true. I was always taught, and I think it's a great thing to tell others, is you never know who might be in the room with you. You never know who might be listening or who might be watching. An actual great example of that is when I was competing as a child. We went to the World Dance Championships in Cesena, Italy. And out there, we were coinciding with numerous other countries and different organizations all from around the world coming to compete in this event. And some of us stayed in the same hotels. Well, we'd all banded up together in an elevator once trying to get up to our rooms, and we had a couple other parties involved. One of them just so happened to be one of the judges. So even though you might be away from a venue, you might be away from something, you never know who might be there, who could be watching, and what they might have to say. So you have to always conduct yourself with grace, decorum, and honor.
Thank you so much for everything. I'm going to try something a little bit different on this show. We're going to ask you some personal questions, okay? If you could only be at one place in the U.S. No, actually, I know.
You know the answer? Wow.
I know the answer. If you could only travel to one foreign country for vacation every year, not work, just vacation, where would you go?
For the rest of your life?
For the rest of life, you got to choose one other country.
Ooh. Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I can't venture out anywhere else?
Nope.
Oh,
unless it's specifically for work and you can't vacation there. Yeah.
Where I would live or just travel for fun?
Just travel for fun.
Ooh. You put me at a loss on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of Europe is so small, like I wouldn't want to centralize it down into one spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just if I could go to one particular place for the rest of my life and it wasn't associated with work, I would actually go to the Cook Islands.
Good answer.
And that is because even though it's really small and there's not as much as many people would assume, there is a different sense of life and livelihood and personality out there where I know if I could go there, I could reset everything that I know about myself. You know, there's no strings attached. You can just live comfortably and happily.
Be on island time?
Yeah, be on island time.
You're also kind of more forced to, because in the Cook Islands, I think, there's only one flight every week.
Yes.
So you have no choice.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. So you're kind of stuck there, but at the same time, the people are so friendly and just the environment is so calming and soothing. I mean, the water is crystal clear. So who wouldn't want to just go hang out on a beach and swim with fish? Okay.
Second question, easy. Last meal.
These are not easy questions.
They are easy questions. These are easy questions.
All right. Definitely.
What's your favorite meal?
Definitely a butter loaded filet mignon rare.
Okay. I thought you said this was a hard question.
I would like a parsnip puree as a side piece, which I know a lot of people don't really know about, but a parsnip puree would be so freaking good. And probably some like rosemary and garlic asparagus.
Oh.
Also, with a really good slice of cake. Either cake or ice cream.
So just like a 3-course meal then, basically.
Well, you said last meal. If I'm going to have it, I'm going to have it.
Yeah, that's fine.
And maybe a burger from Billy's Burgers.
Mm. By the way, you know, it's funny. I said last meal. I was trying to ask your favorite meal. I feel kind of stupid. It's like, what's your favorite meal? But that's a good answer. Those are good answers. I think the last question they'll ask, like to end the show. If anybody wanted to know what Kayla Kalisz was up to, where can they find you? Where should they follow you? And what's up? What's next for you?
Absolutely. One of the biggest ways you can connect with me is going to be on Instagram. It's going to be KayKalisz. So it's just an abbreviation of my first name, Kay, and with my full last name, Kalisz. Kalisz. If anything, you can also see me on Facebook. I'm just Kayla Kalisz on Facebook. I don't have a max friend list, so you can always add new friends. And I also have a TikTok account that I don't use as frequently, but it's still always there. So you can reach me at Kalisz on TikTok as well. And I'm always kind of posting like behind the scenes stuff so people see a different side of the world, and also performance photos and things like that, along with little updates about upcoming performances and where I might be.
Any final things you'd like to say to the audience?
One of the biggest things that I can definitely say to other people in the future is if you ever want to tap into something, don't be afraid of it. Really tap into your artistic expression. Find something that really gravitates and guides to you. If you want to be out there and unapologetic, try some specialty arts. Try being a clown. Like, take some circus classes. Even though it might seem difficult at the start, that's just the process of learning new skills. So once you learn those new skills, it'll start becoming easier and easier, just like any skill.
Kayla, thank you for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure, and I'm glad we finally got this to happen, and we're meeting in Seattle out of all places.
Out of everything, here we are.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me again. It has truly been a pleasure because it's been years since we've gotten to connect, and we've been talking about this podcast for the longest time. So I'm honored to be a guest. Can't wait to see how everything turns out, and best of luck to your future endeavors.
Creatives, this has been Christian Diaz and Kayla Kalisz, and we'll see you guys next time. Stay creative.